Hello and welcome back. Another episode of Fluke Friday. I think it's episode 7, and every time I show a different series of the Fluke. And I started with the multimeters and I go slowly up in the numbers. And today it's going to be the Fluke 51. That is a temperature sensor. It's the first in its generation. There is also a 51 Series 2. And so that one is based on the old temperature sensors like the K and the J type. And this one is based on infrared. This is the Fluke 62 Max. Little disclaimer, this video is not sponsored by Fluke. These items are not original, but I made this for the purpose of this video because I'm a fan and of course because of the copyright. It will not be for sale. So the Fluke 51. Yeah, it looks a little bit like a multimeter, only there is not much multi, but size it looks a little bit like a 70 series, very much like a 70 series even. Let me get the 70, that one is coming next week I think. Yeah, these, they used exactly the same housing for that, well why not. Also it came with the bag, and this, yeah, in the inside always they get weird sticky. I don't know why, it's the material they use. So that is, but I still try to clean it. And well, the protection, always good to have if you might drop it. It comes with a thermocouple. I'm not sure it's Fluke, it doesn't say. But it is the K sensor. And I have another one, and I think this one you can put in open fire. It's a different type of sensor. Doesn't look like you can stick it in your meat, well if you push hard enough, but it's not pointy, so somehow I would think you can put or in water or in a flame. And it's also the K sensor. So I wrote down a few specifications. The K sensor, or the thermocouple type K, can do -200 up to 1300 Celsius, or -328 up to almost 2500 Fahrenheit. And the J starts also at -200, and it can go up to 760 Celsius. And for Fahrenheit it's 328 minus to 1400 Fahrenheit. Default for this meter is always the K sensor, but you can switch it over, I will show you. And also you can even change it as its default. You can do an offset also, I will show, we can play with that a little bit. Resolution, you can also switch over from 1 degree to 0.1 degree Celsius. Or it's 1 Fahrenheit and 0.2 in Fahrenheit. Okay, well, switching it on is powering it on like this. You can see here it is K, so that means it's now for the K thermocouples. It is in Celsius, but you can change it to Fahrenheit. There is an hold button. Here is the plug. Well, this is a yellow one, that means it is a K, so that means I can just pop it in and it will display a temperature. You can see it's already quite hot here, and it needs some time to stabilize. And this one is also yellow, so it should say more or less the same value because it is also K. But we can do a test how to calibrate that. It says, oh, it's dropping. I might have touched the sensor when I plugged it in, because it is this little thingy here. Yeah, take it out, plug in the other. If we give it some time, it will probably also go to around this 22. The accuracy was about 1%, I think, or 1.5 degree. well, they both say around this 22 degrees. But what if we have a J sensor? What do we do? Well, if you want to work with the J sensor and you want to temporarily switch it over, you keep holding the push button, switch it on, holding for 2-3 seconds, then you let go, and you can see now it says J in the top. So now it's for the J sensor, but this is temporary. When you switch it back on, it is back to K, because K, it's default. If you like this different, you can change it in the inside, and I can show you where it's a jumper that you need to cut. And also here it is now to 0.1 degree. If you want whole degrees, then you do the same. You need to cut the jumper, and it will show it less precise. And here we have an offset. Oh, it's not showing in the screen. Here is an offset. You can do with a screwdriver. It is a pot, and there you can change it up and down 3 degrees. And you need to do that with the ice water test. So let's do that. Okay, the ice water test, and that's great if you work in Celsius, because it is exactly 0. Well, I wouldn't even know what is the, do I have the temperature for ice water? 32 in Fahrenheit, but we work in Celsius, and then it's exactly 0. You need to put some ice in a cup in isolation. It's not touching the bottom, so this should be very close to 0. And they say put the ice in a little water, and then you need to stir, and of course it needs to stabilize. That one has a lot of metal. It probably take a long while before it stabilizes. So let me just put a smaller one, and I'm working with the K sensor, so I will just drop it in and stir a little bit, and well, much lower than 0 it probably cannot go. So I would just leave it in, and maybe this one can already cool down just by leaving it in, and then I'll plug that later. Okay, in a cup of ice water, you need to stir it a little bit, they say, and doing that, and then it should be exactly 0, or plus or minus. Plus or minus 1.5% or 1.5 degree, I think it was. And well, that clearly is the case, so I don't need to adjust the offset. So I can try to do it anyway to see if it works or not. So keep stirring, put it again somewhere. Yeah, it really thinks it's 0. I think this is good enough. Well, I'm not sure if this even works. I think it doesn't work. It goes too slow. I need to push. I need to push. It slides. Yeah. Oop. So it's push and turn, push and turn. Okay, I will leave it in this. And there could be a slight difference between one sensor or another. So if I now put in the big one, then there could be a slight difference. And that's why they have this offset. But if the difference is not too big, I will not touch it, because I will be using mostly the other sensor. Yeah, this is below the 1.5% or 1.5 degree, whichever comes first. Well, let's take the water away. It was nice. I need to take that out later, because I don't like the water with my equipment. But let's try to open. What will we see? we should see those jumpers for the default setting for J or K thermocouple, and with the extra digit or not. And by default it has the extra digit. Carefully open it. Look at this. The display looks good. Where are these jumpers? Now I opened it and I see something interesting. There are a lot more buttons. So this is the 51, but maybe the 52, and to be honest I didn't look at the 52, has two temperature sensors, because I see here T1, here I see T2, and it all seems to be wired. Let's see if I can zoom. Yeah, so here this is our offset, here is T1, here is T2, and maybe if we just connect this we can have a temperature reading, because here we have our normal buttons, the on off, let me get the cover, the on off, the FC and the hold, and here we have even a record button. These buttons don't exist, so probably by default it is always to T1, and that's why we don't notice. But we have here also T2. Here we have two temperature differences, T1 minus T2 I think, and a view button. I don't know what that will do, but let's just try to put, if we can put it to T2, and then connect here the other sensor to the top, just to see if it can work. And let's try that. So take this out. This stays as it is. This is the on off. So let me switch it on. Yeah, switched on. And then I switch it to T. Can you see the display is on? I'm not sure you can see that, but it is on. Let me switch it to T2 if that's possible. Yeah, I did see the screen blink. So if I put this sensor this is T1. Now I switch it to T2. Yeah, it's gone. T1. So we are now in T1. The sensor is still heating up, but if I push now to T2, the reading is gone until I switch back to T1. So it does switch to the other temperature sensor. What is the view button? Probably the difference from the recording. No, it's still in view mode. Let me switch it off. Let me switch it back on. By default, it goes then to the first. Yeah. Okay. Let me now try the T2. Doesn't seem to work. Maybe it needs a little bit more components somewhere. They're missing here some resistors. Okay, well, the idea was nice to try. I just clean all the contacts with alcohol, also on the main board. But I was going to show you the jumpers that are actually just resistors. And it's the third one here. This one. This is the W. This is for the default setting for the J or the K. And here we have the R. This one is for the extra digit or not. rest of the cleaning is usually just a little Windex. It's not that dirty. And you get most of the dirt out and it is not aggressive. There is still a little scratch on the display. We try to remove that later. Let me just put a little bit more. There is some dusting. Little brush. Yeah. It almost looked like new, but one thing, well, this is all good, it's very clean. Here I have little scratches on the display. And usually I would do that with the brush cleaner, with the brush hoe. But I found now something else because my viewers told me, listen, why are you still using this old stuff? Because there is something special for plastic windscreens and all that stuff, and it works a lot more smooth. And I tried it on my other meter and it was much more like a toothpaste. It's not dusty, so I'm trying that again. Well, there are a lot of these things for sale, and I will leave some links also in the bottom. Here I have a very cheap one. I think it was like €7, and it does the same. It is a little laser, and now it doesn't somehow. And it measures the temperature. And this will do exactly the same, only it is a lot cooler display. We zoom in on that later. So to remove scratches, I always use the brush hoe, available in any supermarket. But now I found Quicks from Amazon. And I found that it actually works very well, because it's kind of a toothpaste. And it is not dusty. Maybe you even can use, if you use a toothpaste whitener, maybe it even works just as good. But it says plastic polish. It's no advertising, just showing you what I'm using. And let's see if we can get those scratches out. So that worked actually pretty good. I'm amazed. The other time I tried it on the Fluke 37, my episode before, and I thought, okay, it works good, but scratches were not that deep. And I thought maybe with the brush I would have had the same result. But yeah, the thing I will mention again, the powder is not here, because this always leaves a residue of powder. You can see it is even on the pot itself. Even on the, if I open it, you get this powder and it is kind of oily. And this is really like a toothpaste, no residue, less residue than a toothpaste even. And it also was almost effortless. Yes, of course you need to do 5 to 10 minutes. You're just circular motion trying to even the whole screen, but yeah, it is even also more shiny. Maybe they put some silicone in it to make it more shiny, to fill up the little gaps. But yeah, it's like new. Cool. Yeah, look at this. Shiny, shiny, shiny. Super bright. So that was a pretty basic thermometer, but still working pretty good. My ice water, it is, after 40 minutes, it's still good. No, this works. And we have now the Fluke 62 Max, and it's an infrared, and it's kind of a gun. And reading about this thing, I come to learn that I always have used it wrong. So the 62, I bought it second hand, but it says it's new, so it must be true. Oh wow, it feels good. It's kind of instead of cheap plastic, it feels like kind of a rubbery, but still tough. And I think it is a 3-meter test. So you can drop it from 3 meters. I would not know why you want to do that. Here we have the cheap one. And yeah, it does what it needs to do. It shows the temperature. Well, I'm still not ill. This is better about right. And here we have the Fluke. Well, it looks first of all a lot cooler, but temperature sensor and laser, it's the same. One button, 3 buttons on the other side. But I like the grip because it is just a little bit bigger. This is really like a toy, and this feels proper. Well, you pay proper, so it should be. Here we have it, the 3-meter drop, temperature range -30 to 500, water dust resistant IP45. Looks pretty cool. This feels like a proper tool compared to this one. And if we look at the display, look at that. Pretty cool display. Let me switch off. Pretty cool display. We have here the min, max, average. You can do some settings, the backlight for the display, the laser on and off. That is just where you point. I can't see alarm, high, low. And the EMS, that is this reflection or radiation factor. Yeah, another big difference with the proper Fluke is that you can adjust the EMS, and that is that I wrote it down. It's emissivity, so how much emission a product has that you're pointing at. And this one has just fixed, so it's always the same, and that is usually the 0.95. And so it needs to know that, and this one you can actually change that. So you see it here in the bottom, and light, laser, alarms. Here I can put it higher or lower, and that has to do with the product I'm pointing at, but I leave it to the default. But then it will give a different value, and I will put a list of some materials and its values. Well, let's do that same ice test, but now with this Fluke 62 Max. And then we can also see when we point and we put it further away, it will take an average and the temperature will go up. It's a little bit like the flashlight. If I point, it is this. But now when I go further away, it will start to be hotter, because even though the laser is exactly in the middle, I'm measuring a bigger area, and then it will start to average. So I go now further away. Here it says even 16. It's because the flashlight gets a bigger area. So you can see I'm really pointing in the cup. 0, but now I extend my view, and it will also measure around the sides, and that's when it starts to average. And then I get a lot higher temperature. So here the laser actually fools you by thinking you're only pointing. Okay, let me try that again. See, the ice is still not melted, so it's a little bit below 0.1, but when I take a bigger distance, it starts to average, and you can still see the dot here. Now it's 3 degrees. Go a bit higher. The dot is still in the middle here. 3 degrees. 6, 7. Another cool thing with the Fluke is, well, it doesn't matter, but it is kind of cool because I've not seen it before. I had many of these in Chinese, and then you have or a 9-volt battery or 2 AAAs. This one runs on one single AA. So it is amazing. But the shutdown time is very short. Maybe because they want to save the battery life. But yeah, you measure and you know, and then it feels really, really nice, I must say. Well, let's try to clean it, because I don't know if I can open it a lot further. Maybe behind the battery compartment. But if not, then I leave it as it is, because it is sort of waterproof. Yeah, maybe. Well, I do see 2 little screws here. So maybe if I open it, I can just open it like that. But if I can't, then I just leave it as it is, because having it sort of waterproof is also a nice feature. Yeah, it does. Oh, no, it doesn't fit well. I need to have a proper fit. Yeah, that's better. If I ruin the screws. Oof. Okay. Okay. Can I then open it? No. Okay, I leave it closed. So that cleaned up very nice. It is like new. Wow. This makes me happy, you know, when you have a second-hand device and it looks really used, and then when you are done, it is just like new. Even the display is fully shiny again. Wow, 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 wow. And well, here it actually shows the distance, how to use it. It is 1/10, so this distance by 10 is what you have here. So having it 10 centimeters would have like 1 centimeter here, and so on. Yeah, cool. Nice find. So I was actually a little bit impressed about the opening of the beam for the temperature, because the laser is just pointing, and well, it gets wider and wider and then starts to average in that circle. And but it turned out I can really point from a meter, and it's still around this cup. It was still this 0 degree. Yes, it starts to go a little bit higher, but maybe also it radiates around it also the lower temperature. So even averaging, it doesn't go up that high. But yeah, still very good. I was impressed. If you have the 82 Max Plus, that one is, instead of 1:10, it's 1:12. So the beam is even smaller, which is more accurate when you start to point. And also, instead of 1.5, I think it's 1%. It's a little bit more accurate. I wrote it down, but I forgot. 1:12. It measures a little bit quicker. This one is indeed 1.5%, and it can measure in 500 milliseconds. And the Plus is 1% and can measure in 300 milliseconds. So it's a little bit quicker also, but they are very close together. So that was it, the Fluke 51 and the Fluke 62, both temperature devices, one with old-fashioned thermocouple, the other one with infrared. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.